put your hands in a Y.
For Wyoming.
Wyoming is a W, Robin, not a Y.
Ah, yes, the good old Y for Wyoming clip, a viewer favorite from Robin's highlight reel. Today, we are talking about the Brown family ranch because it's quite the hot topic of conversation these days. I recently discussed Kody's nephew, Ben, in a video. He grew up on the Brown family ranch. He's now a stand-up comic, and he is spilling all the tea from the Browns' origin story over on his TikTok. He actually refers to the ranch as a compound. He claims he was labor trafficked as a child. And most recently, he highlights eerie similarities he sees between his upbringing and Waco. Mykelti was just asked about some of Ben's statements over on her Patreon, and she says he's rewriting history. We have a lot to talk about. Let's get into today's video. Hey everyone, what's up? It's Sarah and welcome back to my channel. Happy February, everyone. And happy February to everyone else that has to stop and mentally spell that out before writing it down. You all are my people. Speaking of love, I love this era that we are in with the Brown family. The most interesting stuff is happening off the show. Sister Wives is one of the most popular reality shows on TV right now, and the Browns are probably the least coordinated family when it comes to a PR strategy. One family member will reveal something only to have another family member try to put that revelation into a more palatable context, and we, the viewers, are just left matching up all the pieces and pointing out the contradictions. Put on your super sleuth hats and join me on this journey. Let's go back to season 2, episode 2, in which the whole Brown family escapes to the family ranch. They need a place to hide out from the media frenzy that has fallen upon them from going public.
So we want to get kind of back to the dirt, back to normal, and we're going to go back to my dad's ranch in Wyoming and play cowboys. Most of this ranch has been in my dad's family for 5 generations.
Well, the kids have tons of cousins at the ranch. And so they love to just go and play and play and play and play. And
I love the freedom up there.
Play cowboy? Look, a rough and tumble gal I am not, but I am caught up on Yellowstone. Kody would have been laughed out of the bunkhouse. Now, these are some important details for context later on. This episode aired in 2011. We meet Kody's dad, Win, and 2 of his wives, Janelle, who is Kody's mom, and Cheryl, who is Janelle's mom. Both Win and Cheryl have since passed away. At this point in the show, back in 2011, Mykelti is 15 years old, and she's actually featured in this episode when she sustains an injury after getting bucked off a horse. Benjamin Brown, Kody's nephew, says he left the compound, as he calls it, in 2007. In her latest Patreon, Mykelti reveals that their family lived on the ranch from when she was roughly 2 to 9 years old. Mykelti was born in 1996, so that would put her living on the ranch or compound, depending on your viewpoint, from the years 1998 to 2005. So she is living on the ranch at the same time Ben is, according to this math. I know that we are waiting for the day that Kody's kids give us the real deal. What we are getting currently from any of the kids who are speaking out on social media is a very watered down version of the truth. And the reason I suspect is that if they revealed what really went down in their childhoods, there would be no more show. If Kody's kids were speaking like Kody's nephew is, yikes. That would not be good for business, that's for sure.
My mom and dad bought this ranch. My dad developed acres and acres into actually good farmland. While I was serving a mission for the Mormon Church, my parents adopted a polygamist faith.
Once Kody's parents adopted a more fundamentalist view of their religion and they converted to the AUB, it seemed like the ranch became a place to develop both their family and their faith communally, which included the ranch with all the animals, but also a bakery. Keep that in mind. In season 2, episode 2, we actually meet Win, who was 75 at the time. He retired from ranching, and he had handed over the ranch to the younger generations.
Hi, Grandpa. They really worked hard.
Hi, sis. Hey, guys!
I don't know.
Hi. Oh, here we go. Oh, here we go. Well, he's still like Grandpa anyway. I don't know why.
Check out what Ben has to say about Grandpa Win over on his TikTok.
Grandpa Win, I have direct experience of, and yes, he was quite physically abusive. He had this thing where he would get really angry. He would like fly into these big rages, and if you were close to him, he would grab you, like he'd reach out and grab you by the arm and kind of like kick the shit out of you, which sucked. Like that was not a great time for sure. But I figured out pretty quickly that if you ran, like after he grabbed you, if you just started running, then you'd run in a little circle around him, and he'd just be kind of like kicking the air like an idiot. So that's how I got away from that. You just run away from it.
Ooh, I don't love to hear that. And this is Kody's dad. Kody's brother is Ben's dad. So to both Ben and Mykelti, this is Grandpa Win.
Well, we're going to a ranch in Wyoming for a vacation, but when you go to the ranch, you don't sit around. It's a working vacation. You don't work, you don't eat, that kind of attitude.
The Browns are going to visit the ranch in 2011, but this is a working vacation. If you don't work, you don't eat. And at the time when this aired, that may have seemed like a joke. It certainly seemed like a joke to me. But now, hearing from Ben, I think that this might have actually been their reality. Mykelti and Gwen have both discussed that in their early childhood, money and resources were scarce. And Mykelti recalls times that they had to resort to eating day-old bread. When someone asked Ben about that, this is what he had to say.
Hi, Kody's nephew here. I can confirm that the day-old bread thing was real, because I was the one making it. I was labor trafficked in my family's bakery from the ages of 8 to 18. I would work 10, 12, 14, sometimes 16-hour days. We were working with heavy industrial machinery. I once got my finger stuck in a slicer and it got chopped to pieces. Didn't go to the hospital for that because hospitals are dangerous. You know, they might report you to the government and the government might take you away. So, and it wasn't just Kody's family. We would actually take we'd take this bread, we'd deliver it to the stores. And then when we would go and pick up the day-old bread, we would freeze it. And then every time we came down to Utah, we would deliver hundreds of loaves of day-old bread to the local polygamist church. We'd go out to the church, we'd kind of park in the parking lot, we'd pull it all out, and dozens of families would come up and get this bread from us. So it wasn't just Kody's family.
Honestly, I'm not sure how old Ben is now. Mykelti will be turning 28 this year. But what he describes of his childhood is pretty brutal. He's sent off to work at 8 years old in dangerous working conditions. He's working long, grueling hours. I have to imagine that Mykelti at least witnessed this if she wasn't subjected to it herself, if she was still living at the ranch when the family would have considered her working age. She self-reports that they lived on the ranch until she was 9. And it's not like the Browns left the ranch and never looked back. Apparently, Janelle would ship her kids back there every summer.
Well, every summer my sons Logan and Hunter come and they spend most of the summer. It's been a long time, I think, since Christine or Mary's kids have been to the ranch.
So we learn here Christine and Mary didn't really send their kids back very much, but Janelle did. Madison, Logan, and Hunter spent almost entire summers there. If all the other kids were being sent off to work at this bakery, do we think that Logan, Hunter, and Madison would have been exempt from this? Were they the McMansion kids of the ranch? I'd venture a guess that Grandpa Win didn't have a grandchild hierarchy the way Kody did with his children. I don't know. Where would Kody's kids have fallen in that hierarchy? Kody speaks numerous times on the show about having daddy issues. So would his kids fall in higher in favor or lower in favor? We have Benjamin Brown, Kody's nephew, speaking out about being labor trafficked as a child, and he calls the place he grew up, the family ranch, a compound. Oh, and he also refers to his family's faith denomination as a cult. Well, he recently drew parallels between his upbringing and Waco. And well, you just have to watch this clip.
Could the compound that I grew up on have become a Waco situation? Although there were some significant changes, but from the time that Kody grew up there, from the time that I grew up there. Specifically, that when Kody was growing up there, the entire family was LDS. By the time I grew up there, we'd gone deeper into the cult of Mormonism and joined the AUB. It was much more of a compound situation. And this commenter wants to know if I've compared that in the past to a Waco situation. And while nothing as extreme as Waco happened to me on the compound while I was there, I've often thought that it wasn't that far off because there were a lot of similar elements. Like a bunch of people all living together communally, all tied together by this common religion, all also sort of believing this sense of like, we're more righteous than the government. And our loyalty is to our religion, not to the government. I remember hearing about Waco as a kid. I remember hearing about Ruby Ridge as a kid. And the heroes in those stories were the people on the compound, not the government. In the people that were living there, especially in the kids. And it was one of the reasons that were very distrustful of authority figures, of police, of any kind of government officials, because we were sort of waiting for them to come out to the compound and oppress us. Because that's what wicked governments do to the righteous people, right? They come and they enslave you. And not only were we waiting for that to happen, we were eager for that to happen. Because that would finally kind of kick off this tumble into the last days that we were all praying for. It would make our incredibly mundane and difficult lives meaningful because we would finally get the oppression that we believed that we were righteous enough to deserve. Members of our family would have prophetic dreams of this happening, and then we would all listen to those dreams and try to interpret them. We were so ready to be oppressed and persecuted and possibly even die for our righteousness. And that mistrust of government, especially federal government agencies, ran deep. And so I don't know exactly what would have happened if they would have shown up and been like, hey, we need to check some shit out. I doubt that we would have played nice.
Not to get off topic, but personally, I think the U.S. government fumbled the bag big time when it came to Waco. But David Koresh was a narcissistic psychopath. In my opinion, these two things can be true at once. But just wow. This really puts into perspective just how high demand Ben's childhood was. Well, Mykelti says not so fast. Over on her Patreon, someone asked her about Ben's TikTok revelations, and she said, quote, "So what's hard about that is anytime you watch, including this," and she's meaning her Patreon videos, quote, "anytime you watch something from somebody's personal perspective or point of view, what you're watching is their opinion. It's their memory. It's their life. All of us have a tendency to maybe change a little bit of what happened in our past, kind of. We slightly rewrite our histories, I think. That is just my personal opinion." She then goes on to discuss the adults rewriting their histories on the show. And then she says Ben is no exception to this rule. She says, quote, "I do think that he had it rough, but I've never fully watched any of his stuff. I've watched a couple of his TikToks and stuff, but I feel like him and I grew up in the same church. He was a little bit more sheltered than I was. I was only in Wyoming for about half my life," I think she means childhood, "whereas Ben was in Wyoming for the majority of it. So I think we grew up a little bit different. I feel like the way he grew up was a lot more strict than the way I grew up, even though it was in the same church." I'll just let Ron Burgundy take this one.
I don't believe you.
All right, time for some more of my opinion. Look, Kody probably wasn't as bad as his brother or his dad, or maybe he was. But I am not buying that Benjamin Brown is rewriting his history, a history that definitely coincided with Mykelti's own childhood history for a period of time. Personally, what I find a whole heck of a lot more likely is that the adult children of the Brown family that are still connected to the show or still wanting to have relationships with family members on the show, i.e. Kody, are sanitizing recollections of their childhood to make it more palatable to the viewers. And of course, to not risk the show getting canceled. Mykelti already has told us that she almost got the show canceled once when she revealed too much about her history with Mary, which she really didn't reveal anything, just for the record. I want to hear from Madison, Logan, and Hunter, who spent significant periods of time at this ranch without Kody or Janelle, and hear what they have to say about their childhood and their time at the ranch. As always, let me know your thoughts down in the comments. Make sure you like this video and subscribe to my channel. Be sure to check out my second channel, Sarah Spills. A link for that will be in the description of this video. Follow me on Instagram, Threads, and X at realiteasquad, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care. Have a good one. Much love.